Hello and welcome back for another Torah Tuesday. Today we're looking at the priestly instructions in Leviticus 21 and 22. And if you've made it this far through our series on Leviticus, let me congratulate you for sticking with a book that most people find to be boring or irrelevant. I've tried to show how the different sections of the book work and how they're arranged as this giant literary sandwich. So today's chapters with priestly instructions mirror the instructions in chapters 8 through 10 on how to ordain the high priest and the story of how the priests were ordained. These chapters contain 5 speeches addressed mostly to Aaron and or his sons, and then there's one that's addressed to all Israel as well. So we begin in chapter 1 with the first speech. The first part of chapter 21 details the proper behavior for priests and for the high priest, when they can participate in funerals and for whom, how to wear their hair, who they can be intimate with, who they can marry. And you'll notice if you read this section that the instructions for the high priest are even more strict than for the rest of the priests. He's held to a higher standard of holiness because the entire nation depends on him for their access to God. Now, it's not as though any Israelite can't pray on their own, they can, but the priest is the one who's facilitating the restoration of their relationship with God in the case of sin. And so they really need the high priest to be in a state of holiness so that he can be qualified to continue to keep things running smoothly at the tabernacle. And that's why he is held to a higher standard. The second speech is in chapter 21, the second half of the chapter, and it details who can serve as priests. Now, this section can feel kind of problematic to us, so I'd like to try to explain maybe what's going on. In this section, we learned that the priests are not allowed to have any physical defects. If a priest, if someone is born into a priestly family and they have a defect of some kind, say they have a club foot or they don't have good eyesight or something, they can still eat from the offerings that are delegated to the priests, that are part of what the priests are allowed to eat, but they're not allowed to serve in the tabernacle. This is not because God doesn't love people with disabilities. It also doesn't mean that they lack dignity as humans and as people who are made in God's image. However, it's important for the priests to be without defect because they are symbolic of God's holiness. They are embodied holiness. And so this chapter, this section is giving us the rules so that when people look at the priesthood, they're seeing a glimpse of new creation, of God's intention for all things to be restored and made new. In chapter 22, we get the third speech, and that is telling us who can eat the offerings. So the priests are not allowed to be disrespectful. They can't be in a state of uncleanness when they eat from these offerings. They can't be diseased. They need to have been declared clean in order to eat the clean offerings that have been offered. This is again resolving the problem of Leviticus 10 when Nadab and Abihu failed to honor God as holy and they treated the tabernacle with disrespect by not following God's instructions. So this is countering that. The fourth speech is also in chapter 22, and it details what constitutes a proper offering. And that's why this one's addressed to all Israel, because they need to know what kind of animals they're allowed to bring so that the clean priests can deal with the sacrifices. So they are only allowed to bring animals without defect. And the idea here, the principle behind this, is that you're to bring God your very best. If you've got a sheep who falls down an embankment and breaks a leg, that sheep is no longer eligible to be a sin offering or burnt offering or something that you bring to the tabernacle to offer to God, because God wants us to bring our best, not our leftovers. And so those instructions are found here in the fourth speech. And then the fifth speech, finally, is further instructions on sacrifice relating to social justice, when the sacrifice is allowed to be eaten, and then a summary of the whole section. All of these instructions have in common an invitation to participate in the holiness of God. The priests are God's holy representatives, and so this is how they are to do their job. The chapters that run from 17 to 22 are showing us the laws of holiness versus profane, what something that's profane is something that's not been set aside for God as holy. And so navigating the distinction between holy and profane is the focus of this section of the book. These correspond to the clean and unclean laws of chapters 11 through 16. So again, we have a mirroring effect. So that's all I have for you today on Leviticus, but I have one more announcement that is kind of fun and exciting, and I would love your help trying this out. So I have recently learned that you can watch Torah Tuesday videos in 108 different languages. So here is how to do it. If you speak another language, or if you have friends who do not speak English and you want to share this video with them, here's how you do it. In the bottom of your screen, you should see a little gear icon. And if you click on the gear and select subtitles, to turn on subtitles, then choose English. And I have had some help from my TA going through all the Torah Tuesday videos, and she has fixed all of the auto-generated subtitles so that there's proper punctuation and capital letters, and that the whole thing is actually what I'm saying, not just what the computer thinks I'm saying. So if you choose English, not the auto-generated, but just the plain English, and then you'll have to go through the process again, click subtitles. It will then give you another option to auto-translate the video. And if you choose auto-translate, you can scroll through 108 different languages. If you try this, I would love to hear how it works. I'd love to hear how accurate the auto-generated other languages are. So drop me a comment and let me know which language you listened to and whether the translation was good. I would love to share these videos with friends all over the world who could benefit from a deeper dive into the Torah. Have a great week.